God forbid something bad happens, I'm gonna be the one scraping up your body. On Savage Garage, there were a lot of different project cars or just cars people knew the channel for. One of which being, of course, the SVJ. I always would call that the channel's spirit animal. But a lot of people also knew the Pagani, a lot of people remember the CCX. And another one that a lot of people would bring up to me personally, being it was my car that I drove on rallies, was my Lamborghini cop car. When I bought my Aventador back in 2021, it was one of those cars I was like, God, this is so cool, but what the hell am I gonna do with it? I want to make it themed to something related to Savage Garage, or at least have something to do with something that calls back to our other videos. One of the things that has always been synonymous with Savage Garage has been cop moments. And back in 2019 on Gold Rush, I remember it was the first time that I had ever put lights in a car, like safety lights or something. I remember seeing somebody that we were with on the rally at the time. He had like a little orange and white light in his front windshield, and he turned it on, a car moved out of the left lane, and I was like, we need that. We need that right now. And the first instance of that was I overnighted some Amazon lights to one of the hotels on Gold Rush, and I put them in the Urus, and it was a ton of fun. But once I got the Aventador and I had my initial fun with it, just driving it around, I said, okay, so what can I do with this that's really gonna be unique, but really call back to our roots? And people are gonna, like, some people would find really kind of cool on the channel. What would be unique? What would be Savage Garage on that car? It dawned on me, and it was a very ridiculous thought. Nobody thought it was a good idea except me, and there's probably a reason for that. But I thought, well, what if we put cop lights on the Aventador? Not just yellow and white lights, but red and blue. I went on Amazon, as I've done for a lot of these things relating to lights, and I just, typed in, I'm looking like, well, can I get a light bar? Like, how expensive would a light bar be to get on that car? And turns out, not that bad. About $500 will get you a really nice light bar that has every function that a cop light bar would have, that you see on the road anywhere or whatever. So $500 later, we got it. And we ended up turning my Aventador for the May Savage Rally we did back in 2021. We ended up turning into a cop car. We had a cop wrap on it. We had the full light bar on the car. It was a 47-inch light bar. And the initial inspiration, besides our old videos, was also, I remember seeing in the Grand Tour or Top Gear, was one of the two shows, but they had a feature where they showed the Lamborghini cop car that they had in Dubai. And I saw that and I thought, that looks so good. And over the years of growing up, I played a lot of Need for Speed games, and there was always at least once in the Hot Pursuit games, there was some Lamborghini that you could drive that was a cop car. And I thought to myself, man, would it be cool to do that? But we put it on the car, and we all thought that this was going to be my ticket to my second time in jail. But turns out, no. In fact, most of the cops wanted to take photos of it, and they wanted to park their car next to the Lamborghini cop car. And it just, over the time that I had it dressed up like that, it was nothing but a ball. I mean, we even put like a PA system on it, and we can make it go whoop whoop. It was amazing. Everybody loved it. And over the time we had it dressed up like this, after we talked to all the cops that we did, all different varying states, the funny thing was they all kind of said the same thing, which is, how do you get away with this? And I always thought to myself, like, isn't that kind of your job? Or like, you're the ones who see the gray area, right? But it was funny because all the cops, like, they thought it was funny. They thought it was great. They all said, don't you dare drive this thing on the road with those lights on. The one time I can think back to that really, for me anyway, was one of my favorite moments with it like that, was when we stopped at this, it was a rest area or a restaurant or something. It was on one of the rallies we did. And this cop pulls up, and we thought this cop was pulling up to give everybody a lecture and say, listen, we've got hundreds of calls, and your guys are going way too fast. The normal jargon you hear from police giving a group a lecture that's on a rally. And nope, that wasn't what happened at all. She said some of those things, but she basically just said, listen, I think your cars are amazing. I think they're really, really cool. But just slow it down just a tad, because I also work EMS, and God forbid something bad happens, I'm gonna be the one scraping up your body. So I just wanted you to slow down a little bit. And then she saw my cop car and went, what's that? And that's when our video started, basically, because all of a sudden it turned into a full-on experience with Savage Garage. And as soon as I saw that happening, I ran over with my camera and I said, "Hey, how's it going? My name is Jimbo. Would you like to sit in my cop car Lamborghini?" And she said, "Sure." So this nice officer, she walks over to my car. I start showing her around in it. Here's the light bar, and she sits inside of it, and she looks at it and goes, "Hey, there's a check engine light. It's just like mine." So, she was really, really nice. And eventually I get to the point, because I'm just talking to her, trying to get some different talking bits for the video, and also just asking her some questions in regards to, what her experience was like with being a police officer in this area. Because it was a pretty small area, there weren't that many units. So driving a Lamborghini cop car, or anything that looked like a cop car that was a Lamborghini around there, was definitely a shocker. Wasn't the normal thing you see on a Tuesday. But eventually, after talking to her while she's sitting in the car, because it was convenient, I said, "Hey, if you put your foot on the brake and you click that pedal on the right, you could drive it." And she went, "I don't know if I can do that, man." And I'm like, "I can't drive this on the road. I'm gonna leave my car." Her main concern was leaving her patrol car there. She didn't care about driving. She was happy to drive it, but she didn't want to leave her cop car there. I'm like, "Oh, nobody's gonna take that." And she's like, "Nah, I can't really leave it." And I said, "Well, what about you want to just drive around the block here? Like, you want to just drive around the restaurant?" And she said, "Oh, that would be great." Regardless of doing stuff on YouTube, I have to say that doing stuff over the years with Savage Garage, to some degree, you become desensitized to it. You're around a lot of these supercars a lot. But if I were a cop and this random guy said, "You want to drive my Lambo?" I'm not passing that up. There is no way in the world. Doesn't matter what else I got going on that day. I'm dropping everything because, how often does that happen? So she, clicks it into gear and we drive around a little bit. And of course, I didn't tell her, but I turned the lights on. So she couldn't see it necessarily, but we had it on video, her driving around the block. I showed her the PA system and everything, and got her to rev it a couple times, and it was hilarious because she was also just funny. She was really good. We made a couple different Super Trooper references, but I still remember one of our buddies. In fact, it might have actually been David Lockhart, who has been on plenty of our rallies. But he said, "Oh yeah, well, when we leave, we'll do a whole bunch of burnouts out of here for you." And she said, "Oh no, don't do that, because every single car here has some kind of violation I could write it up for. So nobody do any of that." But she was really, really funny. It was just one of those heartwarming moments when I think back to having that car, because it just goes to show you, if you're nice to everybody, and specifically nice to police officers, doing kind of ridiculous shit with cars, a lot of things can fly under the radar. And this was one of them. But anyway, of all the time doing stuff with that Lamborghini cop car, of all the different cop interactions, that one is one that I think back to very fondly.
Caramel is the perfect hack for any private party vehicle transaction. They'll make your deal run faster, safer, and smoother than you ever thought possible. And Caramel works with any buying or selling platform because they step in after you've made a deal to take care of all of the paperwork for the transaction, and also all the forms and paperwork that you need with any DMV in any state to get your car registered and titled. They protect both buyer and seller by safely verifying identities, and they connect to both bank accounts so that you don't have to worry about wire transfers, certifying checks, and all the other risks that usually go with a private party transaction. And for a limited time, Caramel is free to both buyers and sellers. Of course, you can add things like shipping and protection packages and things like that, but all of that is optional. So check them out now at drivecaramel.com or at the link in the description below.